will try my best.
Fine.
Well, Gary, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule
You're welcome.
to meet with us.
Glad to be here.
And the reason we're here today is just we're going to be presenting on client-centered counseling and some concerns that client-centered counselors possibly have. And we heard that you had a story that was really influential with you when you were really thinking about theory, and that the story really helped you come up with a lot of realizations about how that theory fit for you.
Yeah, the importance of the relationship. I was a high school counselor in Albuquerque, New Mexico, early on in my professional career. And I had an appointment with a young lady. She had made the appointment. She was a high school sophomore. She came into my office. I introduced myself, did the usual things. Glad you're here. I assume you have something in mind that you'd like to talk about. And she said, yes, I do. Some things about school and home. And then she paused and looked down, and she just stopped. And she sat that way for several minutes, and I made some comment about, well, I do understand that you've got something you'd like to explore, talk about, and evidently it's hard for you to decide maybe what to talk about first or how to get it started, but I'm willing to and eager to listen to wherever you'd like to start or whatever you'd like to say when you're comfortable. And she continued to look down. Probably there was a 5-minute silence, and she looked up at me and leaned forward a little bit, and her mouth opened, and she slumped back and looked down. And I said, well, you just had something there that something you had in mind, but I guess you're just not real sure you can say that yet. But whenever you're comfortable, we can talk about that. And she continued to look down, and periodically through this 45-minute session, she would look up and as though she were about to say something, and then lean back, and it was obvious she couldn't go on with it. But it's also obvious she's struggling in this silence. And I was silent with her, but I'm also struggling. What's going on with her? How can I help her to feel more comfortable in this relationship? What does she need from me right now? Wanting very much to be with her and experience what she was experiencing, but I don't have much to go on. But it was obvious she is struggling because she's giving those cues away, and probably at least maybe 5 or 6 times during that 45 minutes she leaned forward but said nothing. When it was time for the session to be over, I looked at my watch and I said, well, our time is up for today. Would you like to come back next week? Fully anticipating, there's another $500,000 at that moment, fully anticipating she's going to say no because nothing really happened here. Little did I know. And she eagerly said, yeah, I want to come back. So I said, I'll see you next Tuesday afternoon. Next Tuesday afternoon, she came in, sat down, looked at me, started to say something, and went back to the being in herself, looking down at the floor, but then checking me out and almost saying something, and I'm going back through the same kinds of responding to her, trying to understand that she's struggling, trying to communicate my understanding of that struggle in the limited way that I could, and not having a clue about what she was struggling with. And it was another 45 minutes of her being really silent, although there's some nonverbal communication going on, but not a whole lot of nonverbal communication. And when we ended the session, I said, well, would you like to come back next week? And she said, yes. This went on for 8 or 9 sessions. And I can't remember if it was the 9th session or 10th session. But when at the end, when I said, would you like to come back next week, she said, no, I don't think I need to. You've been so helpful to me. I don't need to come back. To this day, I have no idea what that young lady struggled with, but it was very clear from her statement that this relationship had been helpful to her, that she had felt safe to be within herself, to struggle with whatever she needed to. I don't know if she didn't feel safe enough to share it with me, but I do know she felt safe enough to struggle within herself and to resolve whatever she needed to resolve. I did check with her teachers since I was in a high school setting to see how she was doing. They reported progress, that she seemed to be able to focus in class better and she was doing better on exams. I can't take any credit for that because I really don't know what she dealt with within herself. But it did teach me a lot about trusting the client, and that the client will let me know what they want to share with me when they're ready, and that this sharing doesn't have to be verbal sharing, that being together, and as I was struggling to be with her without very many cues to go on, struggling to be with her, she evidently sensed that, and that being with her was freeing inside for her to face or deal with what she needed to deal with. Whether I knew what the content was or not was not important. That's been an important lesson to me, that clients can struggle with things that I don't know about, that clients can resolve issues that I don't even know they're working on, and I've come to accept that that's my need to know, and I need to watch out for that, because that can be very limiting to the client if I have a need to know and they're not ready to share. That the client will take from this relationship what they need and apply it in ways that they need. So that young lady taught me some really important things about what I was struggling with in those early days as a high school counselor, about what was then the client-centered theory and now the person-centered theory. I've often looked back on that as a sort of a refresher course of, okay, I need to remember what I learned from that young lady in that relationship.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. You mentioned that there were several, it sounds like she was a really difficult client to be with.
For me in those days, extremely difficult. I don't think I would have as much trouble today, PJ, and I think primarily because I'm now more trusting of the client. In those days, I was still struggling with developing my approach to this theory and how that fit for me and what it really meant to be fully focused on the person, and trusting the client to move in growth, promoting, healing directions that they set for themselves. But yes, at that time, that was a real struggle for me.
You mentioned trusting the clients, And I was wondering for new practitioners or people who are really starting out, if there was any kind of words of thoughts or wisdom as to how to develop that trust for clients.
I think the counselor first has to trust himself or herself in this process. Maybe most of all, trusting that it's okay not to know, and realizing that that's my need, not the client's need. Also, accepting the fact as a counselor that I'm fallible. I make mistakes, I'm human and I'm fallible, and I can't know everything. I've also come to realize that I can never know enough about this person. So how can I direct their life since I don't know enough? I never assume I know enough. Now that doesn't mean I take an inquiry approach, but I accept the fact that I'm not like God. I don't know everything. There are lots of things I don't know and may never know. So I have a rule of thumb that applies in these kinds of situations, and it's that my objective is to discover that which I don't know, that I don't even know I don't know. So since I don't know what to go looking for, how can I go looking for it? That has been a very freeing thing for me. So I don't have to struggle with trying to find something out because I don't even know what to look for. That I trust, and back to the question you asked, my encouragement would be for beginning counselors to trust that process, that discovery, trust the process of not knowing, that you will know as much as the client needs for you to know. And perhaps most of all, trusting that this person is capable of moving in growth, promoting, healing directions without any direction from me. If I can create the right kind of relationship with them, and that relationship is the crucial underpinning healing dimension.
Well, Gary, thank you so much for
You're welcome,
story.
PJ.
I'm glad I had the opportunity to share that and be here to hear that story.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it.
I enjoyed doing that. I hope let's go down and see if it turned out.
Oh, I'm sure it's fine.